Detroit Become Human is a story-driven adventure game that forces you as the player to make decisions that can at times dramatically change the storyline. Your heartstrings will be pulled throughout the 10 to 15 hour campaign, often leaving you wondering if you made the correct decision. Detroit Become Human is a PlayStation exclusive available now for $59.99. Since Become Human is mostly enjoyed by experiencing the story and making decisions based on your own personal playthrough, all clips shown will be from the first few hours of gameplay other than a few non-context clips. Detroit's story takes place in 2038, where most of the city has been integrated with cyberlife androids. Labor jobs, home care, and even some children and zoo animals have been replaced by androids. And for some unknown reason, androids have started to deviate from their programming and in turn are acting more human-like. Throughout Become Human's main storyline, you will take control of 3 androids: Connor, Kara, and Marcus. Connor is a unique android specifically designed by CyberLife to hunt down and investigate deviant androids. Connor's storyline mainly takes place accompanied by Lieutenant Anderson, a former decorated officer with an anti-android attitude. Kara is a maid service android who is responsible for keeping up the home of Todd and his daughter Alice. Throughout Kara's story, Alice leaves your side very little, and you are in charge of her well-being, all while trying to develop a growing and trusting relationship. Marcus starts out as a caretaker for an elderly painter named Carl, but becomes much more as the story progresses. Due to Carl's encouraging Marcus to live his life as an individual and not just another android, he starts to open his eyes as to what it would be like to live like a human. Connor, Kara, and Marcus' storylines are all very unique, and without even realizing it, your personal decisions will change depending on the android you are currently playing. The scenery throughout Detroit is one of a kind, often forcing you to sit back and just look at the landscape. At points, you can even watch an event happen and just enjoy the love and attention Quantic Dreams has put into their newest title.
Back to this again.
Although the areas are very linear and you cannot stray from a set path, exploring entire areas and unlocking conversation routes and unique lines within cutscenes are very important to the story. Become Human's storyline is broken down into scenes just like chapters in a book. At the end of each scene, you are taken to a flowchart which shows all the possible paths that could have been taken. Some scenes have a vast amount of paths and several endings, and almost all branch paths are found through exploring the area. Smaller branches can be found by inspecting items on the ground or just simply looking through a window. These smaller paths sometimes have little effect on the story's outcome and other times can have a huge impact, opening hidden chat lines or other options for specific actions. By finding these smaller branch paths, you open up options to reach larger branch paths, which can change the final event. Opening up your Mind Palace by holding R2 allows you to see objectives and interactable items around you, and is also the best way to explore areas. Unfortunately, when you exit this observation type mode, all found objects disappear, requiring you to open and close the menu frequently. Through the Mind Palace, you can also reconstruct or predict certain events, which is very enjoyable, but unfortunately only happens a few times through your playthrough. At one point, you even reconstruct an event and then have to use the correct conversation selections to explain what happened. Pairing the two activities is one of Detroit's highlights, but happens about an hour and a half into the game and is never repeated. By finding more branch paths, you not only get more of the story, but you'll receive points for every found branch. And these points are used to buy extras. Extras have no real effect on the game and are just curiosities and sort of accomplishment trophies. While in areas you actually control the androids, the camera switches from being a semi-controllable third person with a forward or backward point of view to stationary cameras with 2 points of view at most times, which can make walking very difficult if the camera is set at a poor angle. Collision can often be underwhelming as well, with invisible walls around objects And when trying to walk past NPCs who seem to have bubbles around them, you just kind of come to a standstill. Also, when you're in an area with stationary camera, it can take several minutes to get facing in the correct direction, and you hit these invisible walls. Paired together, they can often leave simple tasks much harder than they need to be. Conversation is the most important feature within Detroit. Unlocking certain conversation paths and choosing just the right thing to say can lead to great or devastating consequences. All three androids have relationships with others, and saying the wrong thing can hurt your relationships as well. Depending on the branches you have unlocked, the amount of things you can say within most conversations change, also having an effect on your relationships. With such an importance on conversation, the choices are very vague and often leave you saying things that you did not mean to say. Most actions are performed by using the right thumbstick, which is also how you move the camera. Using the action and the camera on the same button often turns high stressful moments into walking around in circles because you cannot get the action just right and really takes you out of the moment, or sometimes even fail you during timed events. Detroit's QuickTime events wear out their welcome rather quickly as well, sometimes requiring 4 or 5 joystick twists to complete a single action. This not only forces you to pay attention to the blinking interact arrow, but sometimes ruins an otherwise flawless cutscene with a swipe down to kneel action. Other interactive events require you to hold 3 or sometimes 4 buttons with staggered times. While it is more interactive than other QuickTime games, it can be more annoying, especially when you fail to hold down a button and have to start all the way back over. During combat, you switch between hitting the X and circle buttons, and sometimes you have to rapidly hit a single button. The only way you really control combat is by hitting the correct button, and even though there are high-stress action scenes, Detroit is about the story and not about the combat. Detroit Become Human has a compelling story. Although there are a few major plot holes, Quantic Dream has done a great job of putting you in the shoes of these 3 uniquely human-like androids. Your heartstrings are really tugged on throughout the entire story, compelling every choice you make, earning it a 7.5 out of 10. With its only 2 real downfalls being the QuickTime events that remove you from what would be heart-wrenching cutscenes and vague dialogue choices that often leave you wishing I would have known exactly what I was going to say, Become Human truly envelops you within Detroit's future. If you are looking for an adventure that emotionally grabs you and makes you question your own emotions, Detroit Become Human delivers a true roller coaster.